guys really want, isn't it?
To be completely honest, I don't think TF2 has a future. I, I think, like, no pun intended, I think this might be the end of the line. Like, SIBO had 20 players pay. 20 players. Not teams, players.
All right, first initial thoughts. I'm sure he'll talk about it more, but again, SIBO. I feel like no one knew there was SIBO. Like, no one. I don't know. No one knew the deadlines. No one knew there was another season starting. No one knew any of that shit. Like, even my team, like, we won last season of SIBO, and we had no idea when the fucking deadlines were, any of that shit. No one knew. I feel like a lot of people, even those of you in the stream, like, I would pay for SIBO. I'd play, sure, why not? I think everyone, or a lot of people that played last season would play again, but I guess it's too late now. I mean, I don't know. Right?
There were only 2 teams that were ready, and the season was supposed to start more than a week ago. So SIBO has canceled their season. It's not happening. No one signed up. ESEA enrollment has, been declining. Part of that is due to the fact that there's always a seasonal decline. Like right now, we're in the deep of winter, and the winter seasons are always the worst in terms of signups. There's always fewer teams in the winter, so that's part of it. It could be very possible that we'll come back around to the summer, and enrollment will pick right back up. Could happen. But I feel like overall, the trend is still downward. I think there's a downward trend that extends beyond the seasonal ups and downs. And it feels like a lot of the enthusiasm that was once there is kind of gone. I don't want to speak too much about this, but at one point, a bunch of people who work behind the scenes sort of got together and attempted to reach out to Valve to it's like sort of like a last-ditch thing. It's like, hey, we're kind of running out of steam here. Like, we can't keep killing ourselves trying to make this game into something. Let's just, for once, see if we can get Valve to even just talk to us and just see where we stand. And we poured our hearts out into this letter, and it took months to write it, and we sent it, and it's been like weeks now, and Valve hasn't said anything.
Alright, so this letter thing, I actually have read this letter. I signed it, I put my name on the letter, and I can feel for him here. If Valve like won't even acknowledge us, that's definitely pretty depressing, pretty disappointing. Because I mean, you see Valve putting so much effort into CS:GO and Dota 2, So, like, to us, a lot of us, it just seems like it'd be so easy for Valve to support TF2, to like just copy and paste the shit that they have for that game and put it in TF2. But it just hasn't happened, and I can see where Lange is, because he mentioned all these people killing themselves to put TF2, like, to move it forward, to grow it into something else, but nothing's happened, and I can definitely understand that, like, he's burnt out, he hasn't seen the change that he wants, he hasn't, all the other people, the people behind all the production and, all the mods and all the plugins, all that stuff, nothing's really happened for them, They've done great work, like, go look at any stream, like, they've improved their streams every other event, or every event. Like, Lange's still even developing his Node CG thing, which they use for the streams. It all looks great, and like they've done a great job, and they've put a lot of time into it, and they just haven't seen anything of it, you know. So that's why I can understand, you know, link you to the letter. The letter's private. Maybe someday they'll publish it, and then everyone will be sad because they'll agree with everything that was written in the letter, and they'll feel like Valve just should have at least given us some sort of response, but they didn't. But yeah, and so many people signed the letter too. I mean, not that that really matters who you get to sign the letter, but it was like pro players, people from like other like organizations, people from streaming organizations, people that make content for TF2, you know, and all of them were supporting this letter, and Valve just hasn't acknowledged it, I guess. So.
And it's like, they don't care. They don't care. And like kind of realizing that, it's like it doesn't make sense to keep pouring for me it doesn't make sense to keep pouring energy into TF2. Don't get me wrong. If competitive TF2 is your hobby, if you just enjoy the simple act of playing competitive TF2, it will be there as long as you want to keep doing that. As long as there are people who still just enjoy it as a hobby, as something purely for fun, it'll continue to be there. But for crazy fucking people like me, who inexplicably want TF2 to be something more than that, who want to be able to get some kind of like stability and growth out of that game, for a long time I held on to the hope that we were getting there, that it was going to happen if we just tried hard enough. But I've been trying for 7 years. I no longer think it's going to happen.
So, in terms of what he was just talking about, like, there's the two camps of people, whatever, I'd say I'm kind of like on both ends of it, where I really want TF2 to grow, but I enjoy playing TF2 enough where it's okay, you know? If TF2's, like, even if TF2 isn't enormous, I'd still enjoy playing it. Though, I think other factors in my life have kind of pushed me to not be so, like, attached to TF2, because, you know, I do want to pursue pro gaming, I do want those kind of things, and TF2 is where I'm at right now, and if TF2 would explode and I could, you know, I don't know, be more successful in TF2, then of course I'd be really excited for that, but if it doesn't happen, like, just because of where my life is right now, I feel like I've sort of let go of that attachment to TF2, where, like, I would say I would play TF2 until the last person dies from the community, like until the last like league dies, or until the last match is not played, or whatever. But I think at this point I might not be so attached anymore. That's true, but I enjoy playing the game. Lange has probably put in more work than me, I'd say. Like, he's like created a lot of things that everyone in the community uses. He's like had to listen to so many people like complaining about stuff, and always tried to improve them, and like, you know, put in like real work and created products and content and stuff like that. Whereas I've just kind of played the game and practiced, and, you know, that does take a lot of time and effort, but I don't really need to see the same sort of like, I don't know. To me, I just need to play and have good matches, and then I like it. But for him, like, he needs to see all of his work being put to good use, and like all that kind of stuff. MGE, of course, is like one of his biggest creations that everyone knows and everyone loves. He didn't make MGE. He pretty much made MGE. I don't know. But yeah. So I'm kind of stuck in between, but I definitely see where he's coming from. He's just tired. Like you said, 7 years. I mean, he probably exaggerated a little bit. Like, he hasn't been trying to actively make TF2 bigger for 7 years, but for the last few years at least, Lange's kind of been, he's been the one like that everyone trusts to do good work and to like have the passion and do what's right, you know. Everyone kind of trusts Lange, but it just hasn't gone anywhere. So I understand what you're saying.
So yeah, and also just another part of that is just I'm burnt out on playing the game. I just don't enjoy playing the game as much anymore. And that happened more than a year ago, is when the amount that I was playing the game started to taper off. And really, once that happens, you're kind of done. Like that's the beginning of the end, is when you no longer want to play that game every single day. When you look at it and kind of go, ugh, I think I've had my fill. That's the beginning of the end for that person. Like I said, for me, that was more than a year ago at this point. When I kind of realized, I'm never going to make it to LAN. I'm never going to be a top tier player. And those are my aspirations. That's what I wanted. I wanted to make it to ESEA LAN. I wanted to go to a LAN as one of the top teams in the world and compete. That was my aspiration for a very long time. And eventually just came to realize that wasn't going to happen.
All right. So this part, I'm glad he at least acknowledged this, but this is kind of part of the bias that's behind this video. Because Lange, like he said, he used to compete. He used to want to be a top-level player. He wanted to be at the international level, like competing in massive tournaments. He wanted to be the best. But I feel like he just kind of, I don't know, he didn't really have it in him to push through the struggles of working his way up. So I feel like all of this happened for him a long time ago. Like, he quit Invite probably season 9, I want to say. Like, Lange hasn't been like aspiring to be a top player for a long time, and that was before anyone was saying TF2 is dead. That was before GXL, that was before I-52, that was before like even like I-49. So like, I just feel like part of his explanation of why he gave up, if he's trying to link that back to the game being dead, like him giving up on competition, I feel like that's a little bit unfair. He just kind of gave up because there was a lot of drama. There was a lot of things that happened when he was playing. He personally had like some just, I don't know, emotional like reactions and like just shit like that. Like, it was more to do with the teams he was on, I think, and the way that his seasons played out, things like that discouraged him from playing. It had nothing really to do with Valve, I want to say. So I just feel like this part is a little bit questionable, like, because everyone struggles to be the best in Invite. Like, I had to put in work, I had to struggle, I had to lose matches, I had to go through all those seasons too, but I didn't give up, you know what I mean? But Lange just couldn't handle that, and I don't blame Valve for any of that. I don't know. So
I really went full-time into the production and behind-the-scenes stuff, and that kept me going for a long time, because I was learning a ton. It was really fun, it was challenging, I was doing new things. But now I've kind of gotten all that I can out of that end of it. TF2 has very little that it can still teach me. It's got very little it can still give me. I can pour in all the work and time and money into TF2 that I want, but we passed the point of diminishing returns a long time ago. TF2 is not going to give as much money back. It's not going to give as much. The experiences and lessons that it gives back are no longer as rewarding.
Alright, so here's another thing. Like, I mentioned it for me. Like, my life is at some point where I do have to make a decision about the time that I'm going to spend playing the game and stuff. And Lange is kind of, I think, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty, I wouldn't be surprised if Lange's kind of at that point too. He mentioned he's getting diminishing returns, he's not getting as much out of it, because he's at the stage in his life where he also has to decide, is the time worth it, because he could be doing other things. He's like amazing, like all the things that he's done for TF2, like he's developed these plugins, he's worked on production, like he knows how to run a show, he knows how to do all that stuff. Those skills are so valuable in other places in the gaming industry, and I think Lange is the kind of guy who's like into the gaming industry, and he would want to, transfer those skills to another game or another industry or another like he could be working full time for a gaming company, you know what I mean? So I feel like for Lange, the other kind of bias here, and I'm pretty sure he has experience doing that already. I'm pretty sure he was working with like a Halo stream and like casting Halo, so he like got a taste of what a real, like, even though Halo for a lot of us is like some shit game that no one cares and wouldn't enjoy playing or watching, Lange worked with them and like put on a good show, and it was really successful, I think. And just like that, even though it was all the same stuff he was doing for TF2, he did it in a different game, and then suddenly he got all the returns that he wanted, or like the excitement, or you know, more experience, or just enjoyed it more because more people were there, like passionate about it than there are with TF2. So Lange kind of is probably considering going to some other, I don't know, he's probably thinking like, I could be doing all this stuff but in some other game, you know? I feel like that's probably where Lange's at in his life, and he would get a lot more out of it from doing it for some other game. But that doesn't mean that TF2 is dead. See, that's the other thing. Like, just because Lange didn't have a good experience in competitive TF2 doesn't mean TF2 is dead. And just because he can be more successful in another game doing the production and all that stuff doesn't mean TF2 is dead.
Going to a shitty LAN and not sleeping for 4 days and working my ass off 18 to 20 hours a day, I've learned the lessons from that already. I don't need to do it anymore. I don't need to learn those lessons again. That was the point of learning those lessons, was to not have to do it again. And that's what a TF2 event still is. It's still that. So yeah, that's where I'm at with TF2. It's like Valve doesn't care. It's like, it's been 7 years. Valve doesn't care. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to keep pouring my heart and soul into this thing that doesn't give a fucking shit about me. It makes sense to do something else. You know?
Right. So, thoughts on the state of competitive TF2? Okay. Maybe a misleading title, more like thoughts on the state of Lange's life and what he wants to do with his time. Like, that's more what this video is about. So, I don't know. It's a good video, interesting discussion, but I like Lange, and I think he does really good work, and I agree with a lot of the things he said. Like, he could take his skills elsewhere, and I think that a lot of the people that are currently at the top have been having that kind of debate with themselves. Like, think about Mixup, who just quit the game, just quit Top Invite. Like, they probably have all thought about the same things that Lange just said, but they came to it on their own. But the angle they're coming at it from is, we put all this time into competing, and we're one of the best teams ever in the game. And then they look across and they get third or whatever, and there's no one spectating, there's no one cheering. It doesn't really matter. They look across the aisle, they see Fnatic winning $20,000 with a huge crowd behind them, doing shit that to us just looks like the same shit. If we put in the time to playing that shitty game, we would, I don't know, they would have the same success, or like, it's not as rewarding. But then, so I've also been in the same kind of position where I'm forced to kind of consider, maybe like the skills that I have would be better in another game too. Like, I'm trying to work on the streaming stuff too, right? And right now I have 400 viewers, which is amazing. Like, I love that fact that I can just sit here and watch this video and say random shit, and I have 400 viewers just because I'm good at TF2, right? But what if I was good at the most popular game in the world? Like, I wouldn't have 400 viewers. You go on Twitch TV, you go to the front page, you get like 8,000 viewers or more, So a lot of people at this point, since TF2 it's just been so many years, like that seed has just been growing inside everyone's head, I think. That's just the way it's been. And with every time someone says like the game is dead, no one really takes it seriously, but what we do take seriously is, like Lange was talking about, SIBO not having a season. Sure, that's a big deal. I think it's more complicated than just there weren't enough like competitive players, that the season didn't work out. I think there was a lot of other things that went into it, but when you see those things happening, and then you see all the support that CS:GO and Dota get, and then you see TF2 not having any of that when it would be so easy, you just, I don't know, it just makes you think, you know. That's just how it goes. But will I play another game competitively if TF2 dies? I will. I want to be a pro gamer, man. It's called opportunity cost. Big economic terms being thrown around. Yeah, that's essentially what it is. I think for a lot of people, they can't understand putting time into something unless you're making money. But I've always been one to say that if you enjoy yourself, it's worth it. Like, I've always valued my own enjoyment and like just being proud of my own, like, I don't know, being proud of my own like personality and mental state and like all that stuff over making a lot of money. I've always been that way. So for me, it's not been a problem that, you know, I put a lot of time into TF2 and I didn't walk away with wads of cash, you know what I mean? I got experiences, I made a lot of friends, I've been to new places, I've seen new things, I've thought about new things, I've learned what it's like to be the number one team, the best at something. I've learned what it takes to improve, I've learned what it takes to, you know, be constructive and to, you know, look at yourself from like, I don't know. I've just learned a lot. You know, I'd say that the time that I spent in TF2, it's not over. I feel like a lot of people are going to like walk away from this thinking that I'm quitting right now, but I'm not. The time that I've spent, I have no regrets, you know. The time that I've spent in this game has been more valuable than really anything anything else I could have done with it, you know. And I'm happy with all the time I've spent with it, you know. So whether or not TF2 lives forever, it doesn't matter. I got a lot out of it.